Nevertheless, we're gonna get this party started, okay? And we're gonna proceed anyway. So you guys know I can't see you. As long as you can see me and hear me, and hear and see Ava, okay, we're good. So, as you guys know, I'm Margaret Williams, the author of the Empowered Leader publication, okay, where I help women who have been marginalized elevate their voices, stop surviving power systems, and start leading with freedom, influence, and authority. Okay, that does not mean that there's no place for men, because it is, because men have wives, sisters, so on and so forth. Okay, and men have the same concerns as we do. But to be able to clarify specifically, that way I can market my services accordingly to whomever resonates with it. Okay. So I have Ava here with me. Ava Kairos, is that correct? Your
Mm-hmm.
last name? Okay. It sounds Greek.
Yeah.
Okay. I love Greek food, by the way. Okay. Ava is a writer, a philosopher of the human experience whose work centers around the intersection of power, eros, and soul. And that totally resonated with me because I saw you, Ava. I think it was last week on Taylor's Live. And it was amazing conversation that you guys had. And so I reached out to you because your work, I could feel your energy, and it resonated with the work that we're doing over here with the Empowered Leader, which is all about mind, body, and spirit. So we're about all of these things on how we can elevate ourselves to achieve our desired outcomes. Okay. So your writing is deeply personal and often explores the partitioned parts of identity, bridging the gap between your past experiences and your current creative voice. And that's what I'm doing, and that's what the majority of us here on Substack is doing. And so how can we tap into all of these things where we can elevate,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and help others awaken to higher levels of consciousness? Thank you so much for joining us today, Ava, and tell us about what brought you to Substack, and talk about your leadership journey.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, uh, so my life started off probably a little bit more unconventionally. I started off in it as an exotic dancer. I started when I was 18 years old. Um,
Okay.
yeah. And
Okay.
um, did that all through my 20s, was a feature entertainer, traveled the country, had agents. It was so my first experiences with power and the erotic, um, I still had a lot to do with the environments I was in. It trained how I see the world, how I move through it, how I relate to other people. Um, it really had a huge influence on who I am today and the power I hold within myself today, for good and the experiences that I went through. Not all of it was rosy, right? Um, so I got out of that after Katrina. I was in New Orleans during Katrina, and it got my first job at 30 something, early 30s. And basically, you know, lied on a resume, said I was had experience as a bartender because I figured I could pour some drinks. Continued on through that. I grew up in restaurants. My parents owned a couple restaurants, so hospitality was normally what I would have drifted right back into. So ended up getting into fine dining. I was still in New Orleans. I worked at Commander's Palace and Brennan's, worked my way up to captain, and then ended up managing hotels and restaurants, high end hotels, restaurants. Ended up consulting for the grandkids of the Waltons in Bentonville. And that's when I realized I was so burnt out. Hospitality takes a huge toll, especially given my previous career. Um, and so I didn't. I didn't know what to do. I knew that I've always had a voice in my head when I was doing something that necessarily, I wasn't on the right path. That was like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. Um, so I listened to that voice and really just to control the burnout, um, enrolled in a community college. I didn't even know if I could get through the math. I was pretty intimidated. I had not gone to college. And my son at that time was in high school. Couldn't help him with math. So him and I enrolled in a community college. I sat there and did homework with him at the dining room table. Ended up getting a bachelor in peace and international studies and history with a philosophy minor. Ended up at Cornell with a master's in public administration with a government politics and policy focus. Um, and so, yeah, so I still fit courses for Cornell, executive leadership type courses and leading in public policy type courses. I also work for the state. I work in politics now, and so and all the while, having this background of being able to fully realize myself as a human being, my body, my space, how I move through the world, what kind of space I take up when I am in rooms, how I relate to other people, has always been in the background. And, after being an exotic dancer for a while, it's like when you try to enter like the normal world, you put a lot of yourself up on a shelf. This is what I have to do to get along and fit in and appear normal. It's like a shape that you're trying to force yourself into, when really you're in all those other things. And I think a lot of people can relate to that because whether it's my past or someone else, all of us put a version of ourselves, our personal selves or inner selves, up on a shelf for a little bit, whether we're caring for somebody else, whether we're in a marriage and what we really want is something else, but you're trying to get along to go along. Um, and what I've realized over time is that, you know, when you suppress these parts of yourself that are very important, that 20-year-old me got me through grad school. She's the best part of my life. She's the wisest version of my inner being. And when she speaks to me, there's no filter. She is what she is, and she wants what she wants. And the more that you that that what makes you good up on a shelf, and what makes you powerful and what makes you wise, then you start defragmenting yourself. You start compartmentalizing all the amazing aspects. So, what I started thinking about and what I started writing about is how to pull all these pieces together, how to integrate your, you know, public life, your personal life, and your, you know, secret life. Basically, there's not, I haven't found that it's necessary, not as necessary as we think, to hide parts of ourselves. A lot of times, those are the most informed parts of yourself. Um, and we would be doing this, these pieces of ourselves that have such, sacred, wise knowledge. Why put that on a shelf? And often when you do, it's going to come out sideways because, that part that makes you powerful is it's going to come out, and it's going to come out sideways in a way that you may not appreciate later on. It always does. So part of my work and part of what makes me whole and has allowed me to bring everything together is staying with my own darkness. Sitting with, and by darkness you know I don't mean the bad parts of you. What I think of darkness is like the nutrient rich soil in which all sorts of amazing things live. If you think about the world, you don't, what's underneath the ground are roots that grow trees that take in sunlight. It's mycorrhizae that communicates, together. It's all the rich stuff that gives us life here as we move about our daily day-to-day life. And you can't ignore that stuff. You have to be able to explore it and be one with it and love it, um, because it informs everything else. So that's where a lot of my writing comes from, is being able to tap into my inner darkness and, not just understand it, but let it flow through me. And since have done that, everything's changed. Um, it just, your life, well, you're able to set down so many things. Shame, it is huge for everybody. We all have wants and needs that we, suppress and tell ourselves that's not necessary, or you're too much, or you're not enough, or any of these things, or I don't deserve that, or it's not important right now. And it's just simply not true. That's a lie that we tell ourselves, to get out of fear. So once you set down your fear, once you set down your shame, it's amazing how much more free your jaw relaxes, your shoulders relax, and people can feel that. They're inspired by that. Who wants to be around somebody that's, clenching with fear and shame all the time? How inspirational of a leader can you be? And every leader has got this. Whether you have past or another, we all carry our own stuff around. Generation that is incredibly hard to let go unless you sit with yourself. So that's a little bit about who I am and where I write from and how I got on Substack.
Ava, that's an amazing story, and that's some deep reflection. You know that you have done some self discovery work, and we have to do that. This shadow work, okay? And one of the things that I did this morning, thing that I've been wrestling with, I grew up in a narcissistic family system. It wasn't just one specific person, the whole family. Okay. So they used to put me on display and have me singing in front of the church. Okay. I guess so they could get their kicks, whatever. Anyway, what I did this morning, I recorded that thing 10 times for the sole purpose of bringing the past pain and myself together, and to do this so I could break this last piece of trauma that I've been carrying around. I did that for me so I could release this. And doing that, I was able to go back to the past where I was on display, where I was made to sing this song, okay? And to be able to do that,
Yeah.
it just took me home, and so I was able to cry and say, hey, forgive everything that happened. Everybody was involved. And I have to let go of this thing so I can become the leader that I want to be. And that's why I did it. Okay. So I could reconcile,
Yeah.
re- reclaim this part of me that was broken from the beginning. Okay. Because everybody needs to have this love that they search for in life. How can you find it? You have to go back to where the scene of the crime. You
Hmm.
have to go back there, whether you want to or not. You have to go back there, and you have to reclaim that part of you was stolen, that was broken, that was damaged, and that's what I did today. And
Oh,
today, I feel so much better doing that. Okay, and so I applaud you for that.
yeah. You normalize it. The
Yeah, we have
right
to.
room with you, the more you normalize it, and the more that we surround ourselves by people and talk about things exactly like we're doing now and sit in the same room with different people who have this, it becomes normal. And now all of a sudden you have a community of people who are around you who have had the same pain, maybe not the same pain as yours, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, this is not something to be stuffed down. This is not something to continue to let wound me. This has no power over me now, you know? And you're able just to like move freely when you surround yourself by that. It's everything.
Right, because I rejected it because it's something they wanted, the people that hurt me. So I like, no, I'm not going to. That part of me is gone. Okay. But it still exists because I still love music. Okay. And so why should I let somebody take that from me? That gives me joy. That gives me freedom. That brings that's everything. That's part of my voice. And to reclaim that, I can speak and help others to heal too.
Just
Okay?
telling that story right here, right now, is, you give yourself the permission to do that. That could be a fear. We've all had these moments where we're like, again, the shame and all that stuff that's surrounding what other people have put on us. I weirdly enough, because I started the life out the way I did, once you're naked in front of a room in front of thousands of people, it's like your other things become easy, right? Job interviews are um, things like that. But when other people put their shame onto you and have that power over you, then that's you're like, oh wow, am I messed up? Am I what? No, you were never messed up. That was other people. You were just fine. You were just fine then, and you're just fine now. That's their problem.
And that's what I say with my family being pissed off about me talking about this. This is not about them. They have put all of this crap on me. I was the black sheep. I was the scapegoat. I'm the one was had to absolve all of this. I'm setting myself free. I
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be free and I deserve to be happy. I don't give a damn who don't like it.
Right?
Okay? That's where I'm at today. And I don't care who don't like me. And when I can reclaim, that's how we take our power back. It's by just what I said. And
Yeah.
everything that I've been putting out tells other people what they can do as well. Okay? We've been through the fight. We already know. We give you the information and you decide what you want to do with it.
How have
Okay?
we done in our lives? How much diminishing of ourselves have we done? How many times have we made ourselves smaller so that other people can make themselves feel comfortable? Yeah. It's not our job to make other people comfortable. It's up
Yeah.
here. Just like we have to make our own selves comfortable, it's their job to make their own selves comfortable. And if you're not comfortable with me or what I've done, then that's a you problem, you
Yeah,
know?
because you're right, because I sit down and I analyze everything, okay? And I say, what part did I play? What did I do to create this problem? Not a damn thing.
A damn thing.
Not a damn thing. Period.
Mm-mm.
And that's where I'm at today. I surrender. I let it go.
Yeah.
Let go and let God. Okay. So I can be my best self. While they're off living their best life and doing whatever it is they want to do, now it's my turn. It's my turn. It's
Mm-hmm.
your turn. And it's everybody here who's here turn as well. Okay. That's where we at today. That's where we at.
It's awesome. It's great, and it's like, and somebody really smart, much smarter than me, told me one time that, when we sit with our grief and, honor that for the lessons that it taught us, because, you lost something during that time and you've lost things during your life because of that experience, but you gained probably so much more if you really think about it. Um, and grief shifts and it changes over time. And this is going to come up in a different way later on. And you're like, hey, I remember you. You're still here. What do you have to say now? I'd love to hear what you have to say today. And just inviting it back in over and over again because, these voices always have something to tell us. And it's going to shift and it's just going to, and that's beautiful. These shadows just like move and shift over time. And it's like, every time you can see it just kind of start to like rise back up. Oh, hey, how you doing? Come back. What do you have to tell me? What have you got to teach me today? Mm,
Yes, we have to pay attention to the signs. Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that enough. Yes, I can't say that. Your body gives you signs. You get signs from your intuition. So we have to pay attention to the signs and act accordingly, right?
Yeah. What is that phrase that, the universe will come at you with a feather first, then a rock, then a wall? You can only ignore that stuff so long. It'll again, it'll either come out sideways in a way that, is horrifying and that you don't want it to, that you didn't control it to be that way, or you can just listen to it, and just sit.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's better than listening to the voices from the outside, which a lot of times steer you in the wrong direction, away from where you need and want to go.
Yeah. 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 And it's
So
best,
so
and only
go
you know.
ahead.
Yeah.
We have to trust that, okay? A lot of times I didn't trust my inner voice because I'm like, if I can't trust myself, then I can't trust anybody else. I learned to trust myself. I learned to love and respect myself. Now I listen to myself, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because who else am I gonna listen to? An outside person who will lead you to the place that you don't want to go, that's unsafe, okay? So we have to listen to your inner voice say, no, do this instead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because
They lie to us sometimes too.
what's
They
that?
and our inner voices sometimes lie to us too. We can't completely trust all our thoughts. It's important to be able to, when we have these thoughts, step back and look at it from our being and say, is this true? Is this something I've been told? Is this something that I learned that I can't remember learning, that's it, ill informing me? Is this really what I want? And then that's also why it's important, why we don't want to listen to people just dumping on us. It's important to have that community of people around you, not just for the normalization that we talked about earlier, but also, we can check in on ourselves. When we have people in our lives that we can trust, then you can say, hey, is this am I thinking about this the right way? Is there another way out of this? Sometimes you can't tell in yourself. And so, having that sense of community in a time when we're so online, and look, we're online right now, right? And we wouldn't have found each other without it. So it serves its purpose in bringing us together, but being able to recognize what's healthy for us, what we're allowing into our brains, what we're allowing into our lives and into our being is so important. And building that foundation of support around ourselves, to be able to hold our own selves to account. You know, hey, I slipped up. I did this thing. How do I get my this? I'm too deep in my thoughts. How can I look at this from a different way? um having those people around you is just so incredibly important, but then being able to look at yourself a little bit more skeptically, and most often when you've got to sit with it for longer sustained periods of time, because often the thoughts that come out first, what your own self tells yourself, is just years and years of conditioning that's going to tell you things like you're too much, you're not enough, you're what, maybe I should shelf this a little bit, maybe this is too scary. Let those roll through you for a little bit and hold some space, and let all those voices chatter away and be like, okay, are you done? What are we really going to talk about? What's coming
I
up
get
this
I
way?
get it, but sometimes, okay, the person closest to you, you tell them something, they may not even understand where you coming from. First of all, then you have to break it down and try to explain it, and then sometimes it get diluted. And so sometimes it's best to just sit with myself,
Yeah.
okay, look at situations, looking for patterns,
Mm-hmm.
listening to not only my inner voice but also what my body is telling me, okay, because most time your body will determine before it registers in your mind, okay. So you have to do all these inner searches, okay, and like you said, based on what's healthy, what is healthy, okay? And not based on impulses or wants or desires, okay? So you have to weigh all of these things up. And for me, I'm the type of person can overthink something to death and still don't come up with a, a resolution. Working for the military for 39 years, we don't have that kind of time. We have to make some kind of snap decision. And so you have to, I just go with my gut from that situation. Because like I said, I can sit up and analyze something to death. And that's part to me of self-sabotage. So
Yeah.
we have to recognize that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That I definitely have to. I'll do it almost as a, I love to do it. That's my problem. I'm like, I have to get in it and get out of there sometimes, sit with it in a logical way. Otherwise, I will get in my own head and just stay there. Um, so,
Paralyzed.
yeah, or
Okay.
or just leave.
Sometimes, sometimes you might think, okay, I'm gonna flip a coin. Forget it.
Yeah,
Okay.
good. Just move on.
Okay. Sometimes some action is better than no action.
Okay.
Okay? Because then for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You have to look at that too. Okay, if I do this, then this could possibly happen. You know, you put the flow chart, because I'm a visual person. I put the flow chart up there and like, okay, if I do this, then this may happen. Or, so I'm like, oh, holy, holy. You know what I'm saying? So,
Michelle says she's a Virgo, so she feels that.
okay. So
Scorpio.
I
So.
yeah, yeah, right. Paralysis, analysis, paralysis. Yeah. So, so talk to me about purpose. Okay,
Yeah.
purpose.
I in my practice, I feel like so many of us are, we are so much in our own heads. Our attention is diverted constantly. The world isn't a great place all the time, and it never has been, and it never will be. But it's more complex than it's ever been, and that's not going to get easier.
No,
You
no.
know, we have so many different things to. Hi, Brandon. To divert our attention and to keep us separated from ourselves and any coherent, logical strain of thought that's continuous, right? So,
Right.
so many of us live online lives. Um, again, we're sitting here right now, right? Which is, again, it serves its purpose. But when our attention is so fragmented all the time, we've stopped going to, public places. We've stopped investing in social capitalism. Or social capital. You know, we're lonely. There's a loneliness epidemic, and again, somebody much smarter than me once said that they don't think it's a loneliness epidemic. They think that it's a lack of purpose academic or epidemic. I can't use my words right now. And so, what does that mean to reclaim purpose in your life? There's a correlation between your stillness, your sovereignty, taking your own power and your own self back and sitting with yourself in your wholeness and figuring out who you are, what you want, what you need from your own soul, what your soul wants of you, what the soul of the world wants from you. Being able to start identifying these things in a heartfelt yet, realistic way. And then you can start building something. You can start building that community to surround yourself with. You can start surrounding yourself with people that you can talk to about your darkness. You can start not leading from your trauma all the time. You can set some of these things that are weighing you down, that are making your life heavy. And finding, just it doesn't matter what. I started writing. I started two Substacks. I also do now, which is more of my politics background. But it's really based on all the same stuff. who are our people? You know, when the lights go out and you're sitting there in darkness, who thrives and who falls? You know, and people who live their lives online who are constantly outraged, who disassociate, who um and you know, the world gives us plenty of reason to do that, right? But how do you thrive in that? And I think that part of that is finding your own purpose and your own people to be able um, to be able to not only just have something to do, but once you start doing that, you won't be able to lie to yourself anymore. And we're led by our lies. We're led by what we tell ourselves. We're led by, you know, again, us being willing to make ourselves small, to be able to fit in an acceptable way into a world that we think is true when nobody gives a shit. They really don't. People care way less than you think they do. You could come out with all your stuff that they're, oh my God, I'm going to die if everybody finds this out. They're not going to die. You know, they're not going to, and if they do judge
Don't
you,
give a shit.
it's kind of fun if you get your popcorn out and watch them twist themselves over your awesomeness. You know, um, again, maybe that's my lack of fear, you know, or shame that I've, but you know, it's just their projections on you. But once you're able to like break that barrier, and I think would be surprised when they sit in their stillness, what what purpose pops up for them. And that's scary, right? Because it might be that you're not in the same marriage that you are in 2 years from now. It might be that you are not in the right job. Maybe your dad told you to go to law school and that's just what you did. And now you're miserable. You know, what's your purpose? What are you really supposed to be? That's that voice in my head that we talked about. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. You know, you're not still long enough. If you don't allow yourself to be soft enough to hear it, if you're always armored up, if we're always just surviving, that voice will come out. You know, it'll come out one
You're
way,
right. You're
and
right because
you're
you're
done
right because
with that
I'm
voice.
sorry.
What happened? I told you. I've been telling you. What happened?
You're right because I worked for the my father told me when I was a kid cuz I used to love to sing. I grew up in Detroit. He said, "No, you cannot go into music because there's a good singer on every corner." He was right about that. And you look at the music industry, it is very, very competitive. And you have so many good singers. So, how do you tell one singer against the other? So, I suppressed it and I decided to go do something else instead. But I still love music. And that is coming back to me. And that part of me, I want to pursue. Okay. I don't care. Okay. I've done, school, all this stuff. I'm retired now. I want to pursue the things that fills me up, fills my cup up and brings me joy. And that's what I'm going to do. That doesn't mean that I can't still coach people. That don't mean I still can't, run a publication. We all are multifaceted and multidimensional. And I think we should tap into these things because uh, for example, 637,000 Black women lost their jobs last year, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives and bring in the income for their family. Well, okay, I used to do this when you might used to do tap dancing. You might used to do this. You might have always wanted to do that. Why not try those things now and see what you can make of it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm like a kid in the playground. I'm trying different things and I'm enjoying all this stuff. Okay. And
Be
that's what we need
it.
to do. Go back to your
Play
childhood.
it.
That's when we were the most creative. Okay.
Yeah.
What can I create today? Maybe I could paint a picture. I was watching Fiona. on a live yesterday. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. She just started doing something. That's what we have to do. And then our creative juices just flows, and then the stuff that we create, I'm like, oh my God, that's what we have to do. We have to get up out of our own way. Okay?
Mhm. Yeah. And who cares if nothing comes of it? You're having you're playing. The art of playing is just so wonderful. You know, that just being who you are and doing what you want to do. Again, nobody cares. Nobody, and if somebody looks at you crazy because you're sitting there coloring like an adult, who cares? If you take a dance class and you stumble all over the place and break some poor guy's foot, you know, because you stomped on it the right way or something,
Heaven forbid.
right way. That was Freudian. But like, yeah, who fill your days with joy? You know, just let it go. It's way harder than that, you know. But again, if you're constant, the on the off chance that somebody says something crazy about it, that is nothing compared to the weight of not doing it.
That's their issue. I would just ignore that ignorant person and go on and do what I'm going to do. That's a hater. And I would just ignore them.
Yeah,
Okay?
just look at
Exactly.
you know, it's disarming, you know. And for all you know, that's going to give that person the permission they needed to be like, oh, you can just do stuff. You can just write that book. I thought I had to do this and this and this. You can just I can change my job. You know, yeah, there's lots of different ways our society and our parents and our, you know, our friends and our family and everybody tell us that we can't do stuff. Why? You know, so be that friend to somebody that's like, great, whatever crazy idea they have, you can be the friend that they come to and be like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go back to grad school. And you're like, great, awesome.
You know how many good ideas came up and those individuals became a millionaire
Yeah.
off an idea? And other people like, nah, that's not going to work. They did it anyway and could become a millionaire, like Mark Zuckerberg, okay? Steve Jobs. There's so many people out there. So you could be the next millionaire or billionaire too. Don't
Hey,
let nobody tell you what you can or cannot do. Who are they?
mm-mm.
Okay?
Michelle says you got to check in with that inner child every once in a while. Your inner child is going to tell you exactly what it wants, you know. And what if you're living this whole life based on the happiness of serving that inner child? You know, everything's centered around that. Imagine your inner child. Okay, maybe not my inner child's. You know, it's got some issues. It's
All
still
of us,
rules,
we're
maybe.
human. We are human. We're fallible. Okay? Each and every person on this earth. And we need to remember that. Nobody is superior to no one.
Right.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
And so people need to get that out of their mind. Okay?
So true. Mm, that's
So
good.
when we look at purpose, stillness, how does that impact our identity? Because as we know, our identity changes during our entire life.
Hmm. Yeah, it can be a whole initiation. It can be extremely powerful. How many people are going through their lives without ever pausing? Just pausing for 2 seconds without feeling unearned. When, when was the last time we did nothing? When we gave ourselves the permission to just be with people without trying to control the whole situation. When was the last time we were in a relationship and we weren't like steering and guiding it every minute? Well, this has got to get done, otherwise it's not going to get done at all. And if I don't do it, then you know, and you know, there's a rest in surrendering this control and submitting to your own life and there's an ease and a flow and a grace to that, to being still, to not filling up our calendars, to not making it look like a testimony to our womanhood or our greatness or our competence all the time. That, oh, I work all the time. Oh, great, good for you. How much time do you play? How many? When was the last time? When was the last time you went to the park and just looked at the freaking trees? We did that when we were kids. When was the last time we didn't try everything in all our relationships? When was the last time you weren't trying to manage the emotions of everyone around you all the time?
Okay. That's exhausting, and that's where we get stressed out and burned out
Hmm.
from this control. Let go.
Yeah.
And that's why we are destroying our relationships and destroying this country.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge Miss Youth that I'm going through a deep depression and I feel like I can't accomplish anything. What would you say to her, Margaret?
I would say sometimes it's hormonal, okay? Sometimes it's seasonal because this is winter. Okay, we have to also take these things in consideration. What are some things that we can do to supplement these things? Maybe we can go to the doctor and tell the doctor, look, I'm experiencing some depression right now. What do you suggest? Sometimes your doctor can give you some kind of medication because here, like I said, it's very dark. And so that is going to affect your mood. Okay. Knowing that we are hormonal, knowing these things too, what can we do to help with that? I would start there. That's where I would start. Okay,
She's
there's other things. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, she said she's tired of walking on eggshells all the time. Oh, I can relate.
Y- I can too. That's one of the reasons why I eliminated a lot of the people that were bringing stress to me and dumping their emotional uh, trauma or whatever on me. And then being an empath, I'm absorbing all of this stuff during the day. So what I do is I delete people that steals my joy, that comes over and bringing me all this negative, evil eye and all this stuff. I eliminate that. Keep my circle small. Okay. I went out today for the first time and I don't know when. I went to the mailbox. I felt so good going outside,
Small things.
breathing the cold air. I saw the snow on the mountains. It was so beautiful. I just changed my mood completely. Okay. Then taking the dogs out for a walk, for a nice brisk walk, that also helped too. So, like, if you, I'm a workaholic, okay? I can sit there and work 5, 6, 7, 8 hours and not even take a break. Uh, okay. So, what we do is that's why they had the Pomodoro method. You work 45 minutes, you take a 15-minute break, you come back, and you feel much more alive. It even helps with picking up your productivity and everything. So there has to be places that you know you can go where you feel this sense of peace and serenity. Where is that? Go there. Like for me, for example, I love Alaska, but I have experienced so much trauma here. Okay, sometimes moving your location helps too. I would love to move out of Alaska, period, and I would like to move overseas somewhere near the water. Okay, and where it would be bring me much more joy and peace. So you have to look at what are some things that you can do that you feel that it's not right, and you feel these things in your body, but you have chosen to overlook it. Go back and do an inventory and see exactly what you're sensing and what you're feeling, and you will realize it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know once I move out of here, I'm going to have much more peace and much more joy and serenity. Okay, to be at a different place altogether, and I'm manifesting that. I'm manifesting it every day, and so I would say some of these things that she could to try because I can't see the chat. Okay, I only see one person here. So whoever here, thank you for coming and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I can see the comment. you know, it's I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist by any means.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Me neither.
there's something there was an exercise that I did, the all flight workshop that I was talking about with Taylor, that we had, during this workshop every day, or, we did it for 8 weeks, and every morning um, there was some emotional abuse there. Okay. We did an exercise where we all checked in, and one week, everybody just felt, I feel like it just a sense of doom from all of us. Politics are bad, their prices are going up, all that. There was just, um, you know, we were all carrying, the trauma in our bodies, and everybody could feel it. And so we did an exercise that was just as simple of, um, what are the things, like, if you could do nothing else right now, if this is your last day, what would you go do? And all of our answers were as simple as, I would go lay in the grass. And it was, if this is my last night, I would have a clean sheet. But clean sheet day is the best. Those little tiny things that make our lives, then we can look at the bigger arching, who are the people in our lives that are stealing that from us? You know, how do we get rid of it? Not all of us are privileged enough to be able to make huge major changes in our life. Maybe we have children and we can't leave an abusive relationship. Maybe, there's lots of different, but you can change things incrementally in the direction that you want to go. And maybe you're talking about purpose. That's your purpose right now. Just those little tiny small inching towards where you want to be. Um, and sitting with yourself in the stillness, in the quiet, and letting these things, for most of us, we have a life that's constructed around us. We have jobs that maybe are, if we could do anything on the planet, it's not like all of us are going to be astronauts by any means, or whatever you wanted to do as a child, but we find ourselves in jobs that don't bring us joy, that drain us. We go home, we numb it out. Numbing is a huge, whether you're drinking too much or on social media too much or whatever your favorite agent of numbing is. We don't let it ourselves think, just sit there and give ourselves time to hear our own thoughts. That's, so what are some of the things once you strip everything away? Think about the job. Don't think about the abusive relationship. Think about your childhood and what those little tiny things that brought you joy. And how do you bring those back? There you go.
This is the thing that always brings me back. It's the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the
Mm-hmm.
courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, if
Yeah.
we sitting up there worried about things we can't control, that is don't
Oh,
do that. Just focus on the things within your control, step by step. Okay. And the other things are going to work themselves out by them, by taking care of the things you can control. Sometimes that takes care of the things that you cannot control. Okay. Okay. Do what you can, and the rest will take care of itself.
yeah. Reach out. Reach out. If you can't trust one source, reach out to another and to another to another. That's one thing that we do have in this, media environment that fragments it so much is an endless supply of information. We cannot say we cannot find somebody to talk to, that's qualified to talk. Um and
Even if you go to the Catholic Church and talk to one of the the what you call them, priest.
priest,
Okay. Exactly. Exactly. So
mhm.
whatever you have to do, okay?
Whatever you have to do, you know.
And
It,
you know what? They say pets are really good too. Sorry to cut you off. Pets are really good. That's why I have two dogs. Some people like cats. Okay, if you don't like a dog or a cat, maybe get some fish. Because you sit there and watch that fish tank, you sit there and watch that fish
Mhm.
tank, and you automatically, it just puts you in a different mood watching the water. So it's a lot of different things that we can do. That's your baby there. See there? You just lit up. Okay. So it's a lot of things that we can do. Okay. But what is the one thing you can do to change your mood? Okay, I can go in there. Like I said, I love me some Haagen Dazs. I'll go in there get me some Haagen Dazs, and I like yes. Okay,
Mhm.
whatever, whatever.
Whatever.
Okay, yeah, as long as it's not drug or alcohol, because that's just going to exacerbate the problems. Okay, because when you come down off the high or the drunk, the being drunk, then you're like, oh my God, you're still gonna have the same problem, but then you're gonna have it's gonna be even more.
Well, and
But
then
just
when your nervous system is under threat, and all of our nervous systems are on, they're so wired all the time. You know, we're so overstimulated that when your nervous system feels like it's in threat, then you lose the ability for nuance. You can't hold several thoughts in your head at one time. It's moment to moment to moment to moment. And everything is a threat. Even a basic conversation can feel like a threat. You know, so, calming your nervous system, I know it sounds overused, but our nervous systems are, when I wrote a piece on the Ava Chanel Substack that was the nervous system of a nation. And our bodies and, whatever society you live in are very much, we act very much when your body, when, you know how you feel when your nervous system is fried. You can't have these basic conversations with people because it's just too much. Everything is exhausting. You go into isolationism. You start blaming the other. You start, becoming aggressive. You start, holding on to your resources. You try to, take things from others, and things like this. And it's just, so when your whole country is doing that all the time, and then how are you supposed to regulate yourself along with, all the personal problems that you have? That relationship that sucks, that's dragging you down that you don't know how to get out of. You being in the, rut, you're not living your purpose. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You've got all these pent up desires that you want to do that you're like, oh my God, am I going to live without ever trying that one thing that I have always wanted to do so bad? you know, all these things become secondary when. And so, how do you move from surviving to thriving? Um, and again, sometimes it's just small incremental changes until all of a sudden you look around a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, and you don't even recognize your own life anymore, but it's yours.
I'm gonna tell you how I did it. You know, the times that I've moved 8 times. Okay, that's just for work. If I'm in a situation that's starting with the relationship, and then if the relationship is bad, you stay in that relationship, things are just gonna get worse. I removed myself from the relationship. When I removed myself from it, everything else changed. Everything. Because if you hold on to that relationship and trying to change thing by one thing, that person is going to see you changing. They're going to they're going to be pissed off and to figure out how to prevent you from doing all of these things. Remove yourself from the situation, then you don't have to worry about it. Because that
Mhm,
person is going to sabotage when they realize you're trying to get away from them. Okay?
mhm.
Get out. Don't tell them nothing. They come home one day, you're not there. They'll figure it out on their own. Leave. It don't get no better. I'm just telling you. That's my sense. Okay.
I spent a year in a relationship with somebody I that had, a problem with my past. That I told him the truth about my life, and then I spent the next however many months justifying it. I'm not ashamed of that. What is this a threat to? This isn't wrong. This isn't. Da, 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 da. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing right now? Trying to convince somebody of anything. And I left.
Continue. He's
Oh,
insecure. He's insecure. I'm sorry.
oh
What did you
yeah.
say?
Oh, sure. Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I don't ever have to answer the phone again. It was great.
See
And
what
you,
I'm saying?
the minute I opened up that space in my life, so many, not only did I reclaim myself and my time and my soul, my very soul, but my entire being. But that opened me up to new experiences and getting to do what I actually wanted to do with my time. Freaking magical, you know? You think you can't get out of it. You think that you're gonna, yeah, you think you're gonna change something or change your mind. No, that's not your job. You're awesome. And it's like, and if you're not, you know what? That's your accountability to you. You got things to work on yourself. That's fine, but that's still not, that's your
Exactly. I got my own crosses to bear. I'm not going to carry yours and mine. Okay.
problem.
What do I look like? Okay. Those
Hmm.
days is over. Okay. We
All that
need to reclaim our power. Okay. Enough.
cut
Enough
down
done.
the fear and the shame. They just
Yes.
not serve you. They just hold you back. And all that stuff is not true anyway. Anything that fear or shame tells you is literally not true. You
We
can know
know that.
you're telling yourself something that's not true because the fear and the shame is there. That's how you know it's not true. It identifies itself that way. You know, you're like, why? Why is mm,
I just want to say, thank my father for telling me not to go into music because he was right. It's very, very competitive, and you see a lot of these musicians are dying from drug overdoses and a lot of other things, selling their souls and whatever for fame. And then you gain the world, but you lose your soul. What is that? I'm not signing up for that. I'm just saying. So we have to be careful what we're signing up for. Do we know what we're signing up for? Okay, because a lot of times you don't even read the fine print. Okay, so we need to be careful of who we associate ourselves with. Okay,
you got
just
that number one thing is surrounding yourself with people who are helpful and supportive to you, who have similar, if that's several friend groups. I have a kink and BDSM community that I can talk to about stuff, that they're all the same as me, me well knows this about me. But these are people that I can like that's how, Taylor and I is how him and I met, through these. And it's like when you're surrounded by people who all have had, some of them have vastly more experience than you can look to your elders. You can look to people who have more experience and be like, is this real? Is what I'm going through real? If you're going through a divorce, if you're in an abusive situation, if you're whatever, surround yourself by people who have been there. These voices. I know that in my experience in my life, one of the reasons why I even got on Substack is like, man, I've lived this whole life. If it just rattles around in my brain as memories that aren't going to ever be useful to anybody, well, what good was that? I'd love to share my thoughts and experience with. I love it when I can talk to somebody and be like, no, you have absolutely no reason to be ashamed of that. This is beautiful about it. Not only that, I can introduce you to 20 people who have done it for 20 years. They can tell you exactly how to do it. Here's another way to look at that. Here's another. If you can take one thing that you want in your life and then flip it over and flip it over and flip it over again, all these, it takes a village, So whether it's you want to change your career, surround yourself, get in some group, some chat group, whatever it is. Go to a women's circle, go to something and be like, hey, yes, I made a midlife career change. I got a master's degree midlife. I was what, 40 something, 45, when I graduated. And I surrounded myself by people. I'm like, hey, how do I write a letter of, intent? I don't have any idea how to do my own. But I'm like, you know what? I like went to every single person around me who had, I knew that had some kind of a degree. And I was like, how did you do it? How did you navigate FAFSA? How did you navigate grants? How did you make space to be able to show up there every day? What did you do with your family? I had a kid, how do you take care of your kid? Whatever it is in your life, if you have, if you're raising a kid and you're having, surround yourself by other parents. You know, this is the thing about living our online lives and stuff. Find your people there and bring them out into the world. You know, even if they use your online life for purposes like this, not just for doom scrolling. You know, not just for getting yourself activated and having your nervous system fried, not to hurt yourself, but to help yourself.
And
You
to
know,
be able to help others in the process.
relentless, be merciless with this. Make it your hobby. You know, devote time to this. The devotion for your to your own soul is all you have. You know, that is, you got to be dead to your own being. Just selfishly. So selfish. You know, your happiness is yours to protect. Do it like a warrior. You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And if somebody doesn't respect it and appreciate that, then they're not your tribe. They're not for you.
No, not for you. Michelle says exactly. That's why I'm here.
I'm sorry I can't see any of you guys in there, but I appreciate you. Thank you so much for all of your support. Did you have any additional did anybody have any questions?
There was one and it just flipped and I couldn't see it. Um,
Okay.
I tell you what, anybody who has any questions, then because I know we're almost at time, so reach out to Michelle and or I, and then I'd love to answer any questions that didn't get answered on here.
I would
Just,
also welcome, I'm sorry.
just to talk too. Reach out, find your tribe. I'm sitting right here. I'm not doing anything. I got to work today, but
And they know they can reach out to me as well if they have any questions. I can't see anybody but you. So it is what it is. Okay. That's the
yeah,
hand we're dealt. It's been so good to have this conversation with you today, Ava. I even found out more today about you than I knew when you were on with Taylor. Taylor is awesome.
Taylor's so awesome. Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes. I want to thank you so much for this conversation today. It's been so meaningful in many ways, and hope we I wish you much success, and hopefully we'll have a chance to have a future conversations.
yeah, definitely. We'll talk soon. Keep in touch in the meantime. This has been a
Do,
pleasure.
do you have any final thoughts or recommendations or anything for the good people here?
Hmm. Gosh, we've talked about a lot. I would end everybody on that same note as just what I said. Be just ruthless. Be ruthless in protection of your own soul. Be ruthless in growing it. Be ruthless in finding your people. Be selfish, you know? And when you have that purpose, because you sat in your stillness, because you figured your own shit out, and it's an ongoing process, right? You're continuing to clean up your house with the support of other people, but make this your main mission in life and do it like, oh, I used to go to Zen meditation, and they told me when you're meditating, think of like your consciousness as, you can see like an ocean around you, and boat far out there, somebody in a boat, and they've fallen in and they're drowning. And so make your mental um like devotion pointed at saving that person's life. You are mentally, and that's the kind of mental focus that I'm talking about. And don't, this is your focus. This is your goal, is to get your house in order and to be able to live the kind of that when you're on your deathbed, you're like, man, I did all that stuff. I did all that stuff. I'm so proud of myself. Because the alternative is unthinkable. The alternative is unthinkable. If you don't do that, you know, you you won't just be sorry, but the people around you will be sorry. You want the opposite of that. You're saving your own self out there. And it takes all the resources and all the community, and it takes all your time and all your devotion, and that's sacred. And it's fun. It's so fun. It's so fun. You'll be doing things that you can't even imagine that you'll be doing. You won't, again, somebody told me you won't recognize your life a year from now with that kind of devotion to yourself, ground, even if it's just a little bit of an exhale, just like, oh, I'm not there yet, but man, you know, I'm not where I was. And I got to do fun shit. So good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ava. I sincerely appreciate you and wish all the best for you and your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margaret.
And thank you all for joining. Thank you so much as well. Bye bye.
Bye.